Hi, I'm Georgina Stevens and I am thrilled to be with you on Moon Lane TV. I am the author of this new book, Climate Action, written by me, illustrated by the amazing Katie Rewse, and I am going to tell you a little bit about the book today. I am also the author of Stella and the Seagull, which is out later this year, so please keep your eyes peeled for that one too. But for now, I want to tell you a little bit about climate action. And I should also, before I do that, first explain why I am wearing a dress made entirely out of crisp packets. And I'll come to that later, but that is going to be linked to some of the activities we do towards the end of this video. So stay tuned, and if there's a lot of rustling, you know why. So, Climate Action. This is a book about climate action and climate hope. The first section of the book is all about climate change and what climate change is. We look at greenhouse gases and the main ways that they're produced. We look at the different gases themselves and their potency in affecting our climate. We look at energy and how energy impacts climate change. And we also look at all the other main causes of climate change. Agriculture, deforestation, so cutting down of trees, our transport, how we get around the place and our planet. Our buildings, surprisingly, are very impactful and a big producer of greenhouse gases, and mining. The second part of the book looks at the effects that we are already seeing of climate change. The storms that we are seeing all around the world. Our rising sea levels, which many of us have heard about. Flooding. Tropical storms, and more detail on those and how we name them and how they're ranked in terms of severity. Our coral reefs and the impacts that we're seeing on our coral reefs. Droughts and heat waves. Biodiversity loss. And also wildfires. The third part of the book looks at our part in the climate crisis. What can we do to avert this crisis? It looks at our carbon footprints, and sadly everyone has one. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but it's something that's really useful to understand. Our food, how good or bad is our food? How good or bad can it be? Our clothes, not including the dress made out of crisp packets, obviously. This is a very low carbon form of clothing, but I appreciate that not everyone can make a dress made out of crisp packets, and I have to admit, neither did I. Somebody very clever made this for me. Our homes, and how our homes have a carbon footprint and how we can reduce that. Our stuff, we all have a lot of stuff, right? And our travel. And then the last part of the book is all about inspiration and all the things that we can do. And on every of the preceding pages, there's a young person from around the world who is already doing something on one of those issues. So we look at some more young change makers around the world. We look at how to campaign, if you're interested in campaigning. We look at one activist in particular, and we also look at some of the jobs of the future, which are really interesting. I'm really excited about what young people are going to get to do in their daily jobs going forward. And then our conclusion. And at the back, we have a handy glossary with lots of the words that you may or may not have come across before in the book. So that is the summary of the book. I really hope you like it, and I look forward to talking about it more. But now it's time for our first activity. And our first activity is, of course, linked to the dress.
Don't be rubbish
with your rubbish! Rafa, Tigger and I would like to talk to you about the waste hierarchy. Now, there are really complicated waste hierarchies, but we really like this one because it's simple. And the whole principle is that we want to send as little rubbish to landfill as possible, don't we? Because once it gets to landfill, it either sits there for hundreds and hundreds of years, or it rots and produces methane, which is really bad for the environment, or it goes to another country and somebody else has to deal with our rubbish, which we can really do a lot to stop sending as much as we have been. When you've refused as much packaging as possible, when you've reduced as much as you can, then you can send the rest to be recycled, and that's fine. And then the rest gets recovered. So all those things that we were unable to find a home for, they go to landfill. But ideally, we're sending as little as we possibly can to landfill. I hope that's clear, and we'll share the waste hierarchy with you so that you can go through those steps and see what you can do to really cut down on your rubbish. One thing we wanted to tell you about is this amazing company called TerraCycle. So TerraCycle have drop-off locations all around the UK, and you can drop off things like foil-lined pouches, so the sort of thing that you would get cat and dog food in. They will take all of those. You have to wash them first, but that's fair enough, right? We now get our vegan dog food in just a paper bag, which is just brilliant. So we don't even need to drop this off, because this is actually quite energy intensive to recycle. But better it gets recycled than that gets sent to landfill. And all of your food bags that are also foil lined, like these are nuts. So that can also all go to TerraCycle, but you need to look on their website for where they will take them. They will also take crisp packets. We love crisps, don't we, Tigger? They will also take chocolate wrappers and biscuit wrappers. But the other thing that's good to know for you teachers out there, and for all of you who like to write, is they also have what I think they call it a writer's drop-off, where they will take all pens like this. Now, ideally, we'd all be using reusable, lovely fountain pens, which you can get and which are really nice, and pencils. But look, there's lots of these plastic biros around, and they will also take all of those and recycle them for you. And you can even take your Tipp-Ex and all sorts of other things. So look out for TerraCycle. It's just terracycle.com. We'll give you the website address in this activity. I have two helpers this morning. I have Tigger and I also have Rafa. And now for the exercise that you've all been waiting for the reason that I've been wearing this amazing dress made out of crisp packets. The first thing that I'd like you all to do is to go and find a bin in your house or at your school. I don't want the recycling bin, I want the landfill bin. The bin where you don't think you can recycle it and it's going to go straight to landfill. So pause the video now and go and get that bin for me. And before you empty your bin, you might want to put some newspaper down if it's really smelly or if you've got a lot of food in there. And one tip is, if you have got a lot of food in your landfill bin, you might want to start composting it, because that's really good for the environment. Because what happens when food goes to landfill is it gives off methane, doesn't it, Tigger? And methane is a greenhouse gas, so we don't want any more of those. But if you compost them, they turn into soil and you can put them on your plants, which is pretty amazing, isn't it? If you have your landfill bin in front of you, cover your surface and then tip it all out, and let's have a look. And what we're going to do first is have a look at exactly what we've got. Imagine if our rubbish wasn't taken away for us. Imagine if all of this rubbish just stayed at our houses and we had to find something to do with it. But we're so lucky because somebody does come and take it away for us, which is just wonderful. But what we need to do is try to send less and less of this waste to landfill, because when it goes to landfill, it also gives out methane. And if we're able to recycle things, reuse them, it all reduces the greenhouse gases that are being produced. Once you have your rubbish in front of you, the first thing that is really important to do is to know what your local council, for your school or for your home, what they will take away for you. Yeah. Tigger and I are really lucky because East Sussex, a particular part of East Sussex, will take away a lot of things. And they've just changed what they will take away. So, for my household, I have printed out and added to a list of what they will take. Now the first thing, Tigger, that we can recycle is glass bottles and jars. Can you find some glass bottles and jars for me in here? Thank you, Tigger. We are also able to recycle the lid, so we can send it just like that. Are there any other glass bottles and jars?
There's one.
Yeah? This one?
Yeah.
And again, on a glass bottle, we're able to recycle metal lids. So that can go in there. Great stuff. What's next on our list is cardboard. Is there any cardboard here that you can see? Yeah, this one. What else? So there's a nice bit of cardboard, so that can go in. There's all sorts of cardboard, I think.
Yeah.
Where, Tigger? Oh, this lovely chocolate packet. Good idea. However, it's got something in it. So this box can be recycled. But this, hang on a minute, this is compostable. So this can go with our food waste. So I'm going to put this down here. How about this?
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, we've got a lot of chocolates here. So these can all go in. Hang on a minute. Oh, there's nothing in there. That's good. Oh, more chocolate boxes.
Oh, yummy.
And also a chocolate tray in there, but that can all be recycled. Ah, there's more paper and cardboard. So, paper, cardboard. They will also take food tins and cans. So these can all go in. And one other thing that is really interesting is aluminium foil. So, there's lots of foil bits here. Now, we've got one small piece of foil here, and we've got lots of these sweet wrappers. I wonder whose those are. Goodness me. Now, foil is made of metal, which takes a lot of energy to produce. And the foil that they will take, and most councils will take, is a special kind of foil. It's proper aluminium foil. And Tigger, can you help me on this? Our foil test goes something like this. If you can squash a piece of foil like that and it stays squashed, then that can be recycled. But if you squash a piece of foil like this, which is plastic coated, it doesn't squash. So this can't be recycled. But all of these lovely bits, squash, can be squashed. Can you see if that one squashes for me? Now, the last category is plastic. Now, we know that we can recycle plastic bottles. Most councils will take them. We can also recycle cereal bags, vegetable bags, banana bags, and other bags. Yes, could you? This is actually polystyrene.
Ooh, I love polystyrene.
Do you love polystyrene? It's quite fun and it rips quite nicely. But actually, we cannot recycle polystyrene. Not in our local council at the moment. It's one of the few plastics that's really not recyclable. So if your council won't recycle these sorts of plastic bags, thank you very much, then actually you can take all of these vegetable bags and the cereal bags, you can take them all to the supermarket to be recycled. How are you getting on? How is your waste coming along? Is it going down? Are you finding that you can recycle more things than you thought you could? I have to admit that when I last checked what I could and couldn't recycle, I was really surprised. I hadn't realised that we could recycle all this amount of plastic.
I have found all of the crisp packets.
Excellent. So now we've got crisp packets. Now, not many councils will recycle crisp packets. However, there's an amazing company called TerraCycle, and if we save all of our crisp packets for them, and our biscuit packets, and our chocolate packets, they will accept them all. They all have to be sorted into different types, but they will accept them all. So why not look on a website, the TerraCycle website, and find your nearest drop-off location. Now, Tigger, do you think we can recycle this plant pot?
No.
You are absolutely right. Most councils won't accept plant pots, which is a real shame. But some places like Dobbies and other garden centres will accept that. Can you do a scratch test on that for me? It doesn't hold its shape, so this isn't recyclable, but we can send that to TerraCycle along with these things. So what we're left with is lots of bottle tops. The metal ones our council will take, but the plastic ones they won't. So we need to keep those to one side. And actually what you might like to do is keep hold of these, and you can donate them to a local art project, or you can turn them into an art project yourself. And if you have a lot of lovely blue ones, you could even make a whale out of them or something really fun. But they sadly cannot be recycled, so don't put them in your recycling. And I don't think there's anywhere in the country that is currently taking those. As for the polystyrene, that's really tricky. And my advice would be try not to order anything that comes in with polystyrene. The last thing that we've got on the table is bubble wrap. Bubble wrap also can't be recycled. Can be reused, which is really great. And therefore, we are left with very little actually. And this is just wonderful because we want to send as little as we possibly can to landfill. So this is doing pretty good. Were you surprised by how little you needed to send to landfill? And did you have any other ideas about how to reduce? Because this is a lot, right? This is a lot to go to landfill. Any ideas of how to reduce that further would be great. Hopefully that was a fun exercise, and thank you for doing it with us. What do we want everyone to remember? Don't be rubbish with your
Rubbish!
Is it possible to build a 100% eco-friendly car?
Hi Ren, such a great question. Let's talk about what you mean by eco-friendly. So if you mean a car that is friendly to the earth, currently this doesn't exist. But let's imagine that you and I design this car between us, and we design an environmentally earth-friendly car that actually leaves the earth in a better way. So firstly, in terms of what it's made of, all of its materials would need to be recycled from old cars or other vehicles, every single part brought back in from other vehicles. So nothing new, no virgin metals dug up or new materials produced. And where we make that car, the factory would be powered by renewable energy. That's a really good start. It's not zero impact, but it's a really good start. So hopefully a low amount of energy used, all of it renewable and all recycled materials. Secondly, the car would be powered by hydrogen, green hydrogen. That is the most environmentally friendly form of fuel that a car can use. And by green hydrogen, I mean when water is split into hydrogen and oxygen, we use renewable energy to split the water. In the past, hydrogen has been produced using coal and other fossil fuels to do that. But if we use renewable energy to split that, that's the best way to do it. Still, there is some impact because it does take some energy, and renewable energy also has a carbon footprint, but that's the best way to do it. Thirdly, and probably most importantly, something we always forget is about how the car is used. So this amazing car that you and I are inventing right now, the best way that we can utilize it is to rent it to people. So instead of selling it to somebody and you and I splitting the money, which sounds quite nice, instead what we ought to do is rent it out to a number of different people. Perhaps a whole street of people can share this incredible car that we have produced. Because the reality is, we don't drive all the time, do we? Perhaps you drive to school, perhaps your parents drive somewhere at the weekends, but a lot of the time, most cars are just sat around, quietly waiting for somebody to take them somewhere fun. So it's not a very efficient use, because these, especially this car you and I are building, is really special, so it needs to be used. So let's get lots of people to use it. And then when this car is no longer able to drive, or if it needs a new part, we keep replacing the parts, and then when finally it doesn't work anymore for whatever reasons, mechanical reasons way above me, we then take every single part and we recycle it to make another product, whether another car or another something else, whatever works. That is how we could make a really eco-friendly and earth-friendly car. But a car will always have an impact. And there is actually one small company in the UK called River Simple who are trying really hard to make a car like this. So check them out.
Hi, my name is Amy and I'm here to ask, what are the 5 best things we can do daily to help reduce the amount of pollution that's being put out by us into the world?
Amy, thank you so much for your amazing question. The first thing I would say is think. That's the most important thing we can all do, is just to think about our earth and think about it in context of everything that we might buy every day. So if you are thinking about buying something today, why not think if you really need to buy that thing? Do you need something new, or could you borrow it? Could you hire something, rent something instead of buying it? Really think about whether you need something, because every single thing that we buy has a carbon footprint. Secondly, think about what you're eating and the impact that that food has, because food is a really big part of our impact as human beings. So we all know that meat and dairy products have a higher carbon footprint. And so do you want to eat meat today? Do you need to eat meat today? Or could you eat more vegetables and fruit today instead? It's your decision, but think about it and understand the different impacts that different foods have. And one thing to say there, which is rather sad, is that chocolate also has quite a high carbon footprint. So that's one bit of sad news there. The third thing to think about is think about how you travel every day, because when we travel, we also have an impact on our planet and the amount of carbon dioxide that we produce. So the most efficient way to travel around for anyone is to walk, or actually to cycle. Cycling is really efficient in terms of the energy that you need to get somewhere and the food that you eat to give you the energy. Cycling is even better than walking, but both of them are almost carbon neutral. But think if you need to get in a car, or whether you can take public transport instead. Fourthly, think about everything that you're throwing in the bin, your landfill bin. Hopefully you will have seen the workshop that I've done. So have a look at your bin and really think about whether you need to be throwing all these things away. Perhaps you're amazing, perhaps you have very little that you throw away, and that's wonderful. But most people, myself included, there are lots of things that I can stop from going to landfill, and that's a really important part of our impact as well. And the fifth one, and I think the most important also, is talk. So talk to people about climate change and your concerns, and about pollution, and ask other people what they're doing, or maybe share your ideas for what you're doing and ask them to tell you what they're doing. And that conversation can really have huge impact.
Hi, I'm Ava, and I would like to know what the most endangered animal is that's on the planet.
Hi Ava, thank you so much for your amazing question, which is the most endangered animal on Earth? Such a good question, but actually a really difficult one to answer, because this question, the answer to this question, changes all the time. And in actual fact, nobody really knows which is the next species or animal that will go extinct. So the best source of information for you to check out if you're interested in this is the IUCN, which is the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and they have all the statistics on that. And sadly, right now, as of 2021, there are 37,400 critically endangered species. So that's animals and plants and other organisms. So sadly, there's a lot of animals which are very close to extinction. 37,400. I'm sorry it's not a happier answer, but that is the reality of the time that we're in. And this is why it's so important that every single one of us, like you, realise that everything we do every day can make an impact on this. Also, a lot of mammals are talked about. Mammals and reptiles get spoken about in terms of which is the most endangered, and you will know many of them, but the reality is there are a lot more animals that are endangered than we really realise, because we all think of the leopards and the tigers and the rhinos, but in reality there are many more that are very much at risk now. I'm sorry it's not a happier answer, but the fact that you understand it's an important question is so important. So keep on keeping on and be the change that you wish to see in this world.
Which one has more water, the Antarctic or the South Pole?
Hi Flo, thank you for such a great question. So your question was, which has more water, the North Pole or the South Pole? So the North Pole, the Arctic, is actually sea surrounded by land. The South Pole, Antarctica, is land surrounded by sea. So the Arctic has more seawater because it is actually mostly made out of a sea, whereas Antarctica is mostly land but surrounded by sea. The other thing to note, which was also included in the book, is that Antarctica, the South Pole, where the South Pole is, Antarctica is actually classified as a desert. And it's classified as a desert because it has so little rainfall. So again, if you're asking which has less rainfall or less fresh water or more fresh water, it's the Arctic again. So the Arctic wins on both fronts because Antarctica has so little rainfall, and in fact that does come as rain is actually in snow form compared to the Arctic. So I hope that answers your questions. Really great question, and thanks again for it. Take care. Bye.
Hi, I am Maya and I want to help polar bears by making the ice stop melting. How do I do it?
Hi Maya, thank you for your great question. So the ice is melting because globally our temperatures are rising on quite a steady increase. So the way that we can all combat that is to understand our own carbon emissions and what we can do about it. Everyone has carbon emissions. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just something to understand and understand more what you can do with it. So there's 5 key things. Firstly, understand what energy you are using at home, because our homes and how we heat and use lighting and how we cook at homes is really important. So perhaps you could be responsible for turning everything off at the end of the day, or when things are not being used, no standby modes, turn everything off. Secondly, look at where your energy for your house comes from. Do you, and your parents might have to answer this for you, do you currently have a green energy tariff? So that is one that is run on renewable energy. So wind, solar, tidal. Not many people have tidal, but I just thought I'd throw it in there. Are you able to access a green energy tariff? If you are, perhaps you could switch to one. We could all switch to one. That will make such a huge difference because homes are such a big part of our impact as humans and our contribution to climate change and warming temperatures. Thirdly, how are you traveling? Have a look at how you travel on a day-to-day basis. Every time we fly, we produce a lot of carbon emissions, carbon dioxide emissions. Every time we use a combustion car, we also produce a lot of carbon dioxide emissions. Can you walk more? Cycle more, drive less, be driven less? Can we get the train instead of flying sometimes? All of those decisions are really important. And also, fourthly, look at the food that you're eating. So some food produces much higher emissions of carbon dioxide, meat and dairy, for example. Other products produced locally, especially fruit and vegetables produced locally, are also low carbon footprint foods. Can you eat more of those and less of the high footprint ones? If you can, it all makes a difference. But the most important thing, number 5, is talking about climate change. Can you have a discussion with your grandparents, with your family, with your school, at your school, about climate change and what everyone else is doing? Can you share ideas? Can you ask other people to get involved with you? That's the most powerful thing we can all do. So keep talking and keep thinking and keep dreaming up your own ideas.
Why are people not taking care of the planet?
Hi Violetta, thank you so much for such a brilliant question. Why isn't everyone taking care of the planet? And the first thing to say is there are a lot of people out there who really are, who are doing everything they can. They're recycling, they're using green energy, they're driving green cars, they're trying their absolute best, they really care. But some people feel that their individual efforts to bank with a good bank, or to buy green energy, or to eat foods that have a lower impact, some people feel that those things just don't make a difference in the bigger picture on a global perspective. But what I can tell you is that's not true. Every single thing that every single one of us does has an impact, positive or negative, and we have the power to choose which one of those we want to take. And there's a gorgeous story, and it's called the starfish parable. And there's a young boy on a beach, beautiful beach, littered with starfish all over the beach. And this young boy is picking up individual starfish and throwing them back into the sea one by one. There's miles of these poor starfish. And an old man walks along and he says to the boy, "What are you doing? Why are you picking up these starfish from the beach?" And the boy says, "Because the sun is out and the starfish are stranded and they will die if I leave them here." And the old man laughs and says, "But you can't make a big difference here. There are miles and miles of beach covered in these starfish." And the boy simply picks another starfish up, throws it out to sea and says, "Yes, but I made a difference to that starfish." And with that, the old man looks at the beach and looks at the boy, and then he bends down and picks up a starfish, and he continues to do that for the rest of the day with the boy. And what the story is really telling us is that we can make a difference. Everything we do makes a difference, and we mustn't forget that. And what the story also shows is that if we do what we can do, others will see us doing that, and they will want to do something too. So the message for all of us is just do what you can, even if it's one small thing, even if it's picking up one piece of litter, even if it's turning one light off one day. It all makes a difference. So we've got to keep doing it, because other people will then see us do that and they will be inspired to do it too. So Violetta, thank you so much. What a brilliant question. I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I hope you found the Don't Be Rubbish with Your Rubbish exercise useful in some way. I certainly learned I could recycle so much more than I thought I could, which is really exciting. And one more tip for you on that is, if you switch over your bins so that your biggest bin in your kitchen is not your landfill bin, but is your recycling bin, and put your landfill bin away somewhere, perhaps in a drawer or a cupboard that's more difficult to get to, you might find that people in your family have to think more before they put things in the landfill bin. And you might find that you're only sending a few things each week to landfill, which is really exciting. And remember, we all have the potential to make huge positive impact. Please send me your questions if you have any more. You can tweet me at Georgina Stevens, or on Instagram at Georgina Stevens Green. I love your questions. I learn so much from them.